Hello and welcome to the Shoe Dares Wins podcast.
Hi.
My guest today is Hattie. All right, Hattie, Shoe Dares Wins. Tell me how you've dared and won.
I have dared and won by picking myself up again and again until I made it to my dream.
Okay, what was the dream?
The dream was to become a flower farmer and live on a small holding in the middle of nowhere, and I got there. But when you got in touch with me, that's what I thought I was going to come and talk about. Like, can I come and tell you about flowers? It's a very easy subject for me to talk about, but
Yeah.
it set off like a train of reflection and learning. And this time of year for a flower farmer is our almost quiet time of year. So I sort of like maybe indulged myself in that reflection and those thinkings, and thought, would it be all right for me to share that with you instead?
Of course, of course. You lead the way.
So I think once you got in touch, I had that like moment of like, oh my God, yeah, I'm like a brave woman and I can go and talk about being this like someone who's dared. And then I had the inevitable crash, and I'm going to say this word only once, which is imposter syndrome of, should I be there? Look at all these amazing people who've done stuff. And I went back and I'd listened to some of your episodes because some of my friends have been on. And I was like, actually, what I love about each of these is their story. And isn't that what people are connected to and interested in? And I have this, it's not like a brand new thing to me, but instead of chapters, I think about that our lives are like a tapestry, and how each thing that happened before has like woven into the point that we're at now. And there's probably like 1,000 ways that that tapestry can be impacted and where you get to in the end. And that cumulative learning, events, life shocks, things going off the rails gets you to the point that you're at now. And so sometimes when I feel like, oh yeah, I've made it, I've got to my dream, I've also got 10 years of trying to get there when I knew that's what I wanted my dream to be, but also now I've hit 40, like 35 years of conscious things happening to me that have got me to this point. And that slow movement towards a big thing happening is actually quite a natural thing, and it is quite rare when you find your dream and it happens instantly. And we're in a world that makes you feel like that should be it, but actually if it takes you 10 years to get somewhere, that's still worth it. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about, that those things lead up to that. And hopefully we might chat about flowers, but also that movement to that point.
I think the way you put it there is so beautiful, and also something that people need to realise, because I'm incredibly impatient and I get carried away with that end point and where you need to be. And actually, when you do reflect and you see those little pieces fit together, you've got to give yourself a little bit of credit, haven't you?
Yeah, I think in so many, I've done a lot of different jobs, and in so many of them, you're never given time to reflect. It's on to the next project, on to the next funding application, on to the next piece of work, next meeting. COVID definitely made that worse with that like back-to-back meeting that didn't disappear once we were all face to face. And I think gifting your time, some time to reflect, is so powerful for helping you move forward and make those decisions. And actually, you asking me, I was like, immediately I was like, all right, well, go talk about flower farming, how resilient you have to be, how hard you have to work, how great it is, how good it is. And I'm like, but actually, there's all this stuff that happened beforehand to get to that point. So then I was like, oh, well, it was my last job, that's what I could talk about. And I was like, no, actually, because if we go back, track back, there was that. And then I went back and I was like, actually, the first pivotal moment that I feel that's led me to this point was losing my home as a kid. So one of those just situations where you couldn't expect it to happen. We lost our family home, and I had to move schools all within a couple of weeks of each other, which at 11, 12
That's huge.
is huge.
Yeah.
Joining an all-girls school in year 8 is not something I would recommend to anybody, because everyone's friendships are already formed. And that was a quick lesson in resilience, getting to know people, fitting in, stepping back, understanding people, knowing how girls could be. Like I'd learned so much, and I often think back to that as quite a pivotal point in my life of how things like started to unfold and come about. But because of that happening and moving home, like the next things that happen are all connected. And I think when I look back on my life, I've had a few moments where there's a really lovely phrase where you call them life shocks, things that wouldn't expect to happen to you that then have a bigger impact. And I guess that's a life shock. And then I had another one when I was 15, and I contracted bacterial meningitis and nearly didn't survive it. So I was in high dependency. My family were told to come and say goodbye to me and all of those things. Luckily, as the person going through it, it's a lot easier than the people who love you and are around you. But again, coming through that was a moment, and the learning to rebuild. So after something like meningitis, it takes you about 18 months to get back to full health.
Yeah, it is awful. Like, I remember being in school and there was a child that unfortunately didn't make it, and like the shock through the community.
Yeah.
And then the panic of like people. I think it was a time where, you know, anyone could get it, and there was this because it is contagious, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really contagious. So I became that girl who everybody had a letter home to school about.
Yeah.
So remember, I'd joined in year 8, so I already was sticking out.
And you dropped the bomb.
I dropped that bomb on them. But then what that did is it triggered for our family a moment of like, whoa, life's short. You don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And my parents decided to move out to the countryside. We were living in a town. We all wanted to live more rurally. So again, that's like that tapestry led up to that.
Just take me, because I do know this because we've had a previous chat. How, because I think it's interesting, how did you get meningitis? If you don't mind sharing.
I was underage drinking on a night out and kissed a boy.
Which is crazy, because that
first boy
happens
I
to anything.
kissed as well. So at 15, so again, not until an adult, I'm like, oh, that's really odd that the first time you kissed someone, you actually nearly died. Like, how ridiculous is that?
That's a kiss of death.
Yeah. Somehow I have kissed other boys since.
And not died.
Yeah, not died, which is good, yes.
But like that is crazy too. Like, your first experience, which is pretty huge in most people's lives, had such a huge repercussion.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting, and that's going to go out public, isn't it? My mum would be like, "Oh God, not again." Flashbacks. I think like some of the things that I got from being so critically ill was a real zest for life. Like, how lucky am I to have survived that and to live that? But that wasn't my only near-death experience. So we moved out to the countryside, living quite an idyllic life, going to school, had a horse. Then I went to university. I did the horse when I went to university. Again, I actually messed my A-levels up, and part of that was burnout from meningitis. So I didn't get the grades I wanted, but that was the best mistake I ever made, which again taught me that making mistakes is good, because I didn't get the grades I needed, but I was going to do psychology at university, and I ended up doing environmental science, and I adored my degree, and everything I've learned I have held on to and been able to bring into my working life, which is quite rare, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I just love, and it was a really practical degree, and I got to be outdoors, and it like fostered again my love of the outdoors and nature and conservation, and a sense of justice, which I've got a high sense of. So this journey like took me to this point. We were living in the middle of nowhere. I came back for my first summer after uni, and I was determined to make as much money as possible, because you need money to have fun. And I was at Newcastle Uni, and we were renowned for having fun.
Yeah.
And I worked 2 jobs, and on the return from one of the jobs, I had a really bad car accident and wrote off a Land Rover Defender in a ditch. Luckily, I was on my own, and there were no other vehicles involved.
The Defender is the hardest car to break.
I know. I'll show you the photo after I peeled. You know how sardine cans are? The roof was like that off.
No way.
And the chassis was bent. And this is probably quite a traumatic thing. So I woke up and realised that I was in the car, and there was blood everywhere. And I was I ran my mum and dad, and it was the middle of the night, because I was working in a pub, and I was like, you need to ring an ambulance. And I was like, they're not going to believe me. They're going to think that I'm okay. So I ran an ambulance as well. And then must have passed out because like a few months later I found a voice note from the ambulance service like, hey, we were talking to you and you've disappeared. And, but I was so lucky. I came out, I had a very bad cut to my head, had multiple stitches, I had cuts across my face, my hands, bruising, and I can picture where I was sitting when this doctor, this wonderful Spanish doctor was talking to me, and she said, you have millimetres, you would be brain damaged. Like millimetres, you'd be blind. Millimetres, you should have broken legs. You should have broken ribs, shoulder.
Shit.
Like she was like, she said it's like something wrapped around you. And I think surviving meningitis and surviving that did bring in sort of a bit of spirituality to me, thinking like sometimes it feels like there's a bigger force, or there's like a luck of being able to survive things. And so I think that took, so I think I knew I was resilient by that point, and I guess it brought in a little bit of like the woo-woo for me at that stage that I still have now, and I do really like I think that's led to like where I think manifestation's interesting, and inviting good stuff in and having a positive sort of outlook on life.
Do you feel like it was kind of the, you're not done yet?
Yeah, probably.
Like you've got unfinished business?
Yeah. I've definitely, and I'm made up.
Either that or you're a cat with 9 lives.
Yeah, well, that's... I'll take either of those.
Yeah.
And I guess, like, so that's, like, I'm still only 19 at this point. I haven't finished uni. I haven't, and I've learned, I learned so much by then. And it equal parts sort of made life harder and wobbly at times. Like, you saw, like how easy things can change on a sixpence in seconds. Things are so different. But I got my degree. I did really well. And at the end of my degree, I had found out that because of those 2 brain injuries, that I had like a processing thing that made writing a lot harder and more challenging. And the university had helped me find out about that. But I also had this other pivotal moment at university where one of our lecturers said, you will either go out there and you'll do something in the environment where you're making the world better. You won't be paid very well for it, but you'll be able to look at yourself in the mirror. Or you'll be going out there and you'll be doing someone who's doing something bad to the environment, and you're trying to explain why they're not doing it, but you get paid really well and you'll be able to afford things. And I was like...
Was this a lecturer that said this?
And I remember being like,
Insight.
I want to be the good, on the good side.
The latter,
I want to go and make a difference. So when I started to look for jobs, that resonated as well. So I just, this is like when I was saying to you, like that tapestry like weaves up. And I reflect, I loved being outdoors, and somehow found myself in waste management in a very male-dominated
Me too.
industry. On landfills.
Love a good landfill. Yeah. See, we were supposed to be sat here because we're both landfill workers.
The joy. We did have a conversation before about if everyone went on a landfill, you'd be like...
You'd stop throwing stuff out and you'd realise like how wasteful we are. And they'd also surely, I think, made the biggest realisation is how big rats can get.
I don't know. The biggest one I've ever seen was in London. So.
No, I've seen the size of dogs in like Wales.
Wow.
Yeah, and then like it's quite scary to walk across a landfill, isn't it? Like everyone's waste. You see things, you're exposed to things. Yeah, it's not a nice environment, and I think it would kickstart some. Well, it did kickstart something in me in the whole environmental side of things.
Yeah, definitely. I have held on to that, and I think I've always had like a care about social justice and making a difference in the world. Sometimes I call it a save the world complex, and that like always making a difference. In every job I've had, I've stuck to my values. So I've done really different careers and made big leaps into different areas. But I have taken that learning from each thing and that passion, because my values have stayed the same, but my learning's like grown and developed with it. So yeah, and after that, I then moved into wildlife conservation, which again is quite a male-dominated, not so much now, but was quite male-dominated.
Oh, is
industry.
it? That surprises me.
I think at the time when I was there were a lot of younger people, but I think it's quite a challenging job to have a family alongside. A lot of typical roles where there aren't as many women, but I'd say there's probably evens out. But a lot of the senior people were men.
Yeah.
and I did 7 years of working in wildlife conservation. And I can just see, again, those strings from being the kid that would play in the garden and dig up mud and look for wildlife and keep centipedes in a room, was still like becomes the person that then's in the job. And I had the resilience of what happened to me as a teenager, made me more able to deal with being in the male-dominated industry when a man's not talking to you because they can't believe that you're the person that's come to see them on their farm, not the man standing next to you that's a volunteer who's come to help you. And that sort of resilience to go, oh, actually, it's me.
Yeah.
And I think I look back and I think when I moved to the conservation job, they just handed me quite a big project, and I was 23, and I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And I think that, like, I keep thinking back, like, where did this come from?
That confidence come from, yeah.
And I think it's just more about just an enjoyment, like, throw yourself into it. You don't know what's going to happen, go for it. Because I keep questioning why I keep doing that, like, why I keep being able to change things and jump in. And I really adored working in conservation. And I thought that I'd made it and that would be my forever job.
Yeah.
But it didn't unfold like that, and that was
Did you
hard.
think that was it because it was outdoors, it was with animals?
Yeah.
You kind of naturally, I think it's one of these things, isn't it? We're told, you have this perception of careers in your mind, and it's you've got to get out there and do it quick.
Yeah.
Because sometimes what you think, like I remember at university, lots of my friends wanted to be lawyers, and I think they just watched too much Ally McBeal, and then when they became a lawyer, they were like,
That's just showing your age.
yeah, I know. Sorry. If you're listening to this and you're below 40, like, I don't know what's a good law. Don't know.
What's the thing where she wears a pink?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah,
just again showing my
Legally Blonde.
Legally
Legally Blonde. And then they get into the job and they're like, it's just a lot of paperwork, and I'm not dealing with criminals and all this stuff, and I'm not in a courtroom doing this glorified thing. And I'm like, God, the system fails us in that it doesn't educate us clearly on what to go into. Like my job was never. I fell into it in construction and waste management, and then it ended up being huge part of my life, but no one ever said, oh, you can do this. I think my career survey came out as bin lady, which was close. Yeah. It was super close. But you're right. You're trying to navigate this way, aren't you? And for you thought the key was like wildlife.
And being outdoors. But any job, you find yourself being put behind a desk a bit more. I had never had... I never got a full-time contract, so I was always looking for additional funding to keep my role. And so there, you've got to sit behind a computer and write that funding application. I wanted to progress, but there wasn't progression routes because that's a lot of people would stay in their role as an officer of a whatever. And I think I was like itching to make a difference and do something more and stretch myself. And at that point, when that was happening, I got married, and I had a really DIY wedding, and I did so much of it myself. And we brought a florist in to do our flowers, but I collected a lot from the wildlife garden I ran. I grew some in my mum's garden. We collected bits to give to the florists. And after my wedding, people were like, oh, you should organise weddings. And I was like, oh no, that's like my worst nightmare, because everyone always loves to suggest what you should be doing, shouldn't they? You should do this, you should do that. But then, and excuse the pun, like this tiny seed of an idea was like, well, I could grow flowers for people's weddings and give people wedding flowers and do it in a really natural way, because that's like how I could contribute to a wedding being more sustainable and good for the planet. But at that point we had our garden could have fit in your studio. Do you know, it was tiny as living in Hull. And it felt like a total pipe dream. And I didn't tell anyone. I was like, don't tell people, because they won't believe that that's what you want to do. They'll laugh at you because you don't have a proper garden. They won't believe that that's a possibility. So I kept it to myself.
Had that, excuse the pun, but the seed of like flowers run consistently through your life at that point? Like, oh no, okay, right.
I think I was just like, oh, this would be an amazing way of being outdoors all the time and getting to work in events and do fun stuff. And I can't even like picture why that happened. It just was like...
So it's just this unknown, almost like calling, and you weren't, again, it's going to be something you're going to try, but you weren't sure if it was going to work or not, but you just leaned into it.
Yeah. And I was trying to get a promotion at work, and it didn't happen. And then Hull won City of Culture, and I'd put a punt in and a project that was one of the projects that helped get the funding, and it was to turn areas of green space in the city into pictorial meadows. And it was really exciting. It helped get it. And then they decided to drop the project. And I was like, well, you're not getting rid of me, because I want this to be a really good thing for the city I live in. So I totally pivoted and applied for a job there. I was like, I'm coming to work for you because I need to make sure you do it properly. You've dropped my project, but you're not going to get away from me.
Right.
And ended up working in the volunteer team there. So we managed 3,500 volunteers over 365 days of activity, which was 350,000 hours of volunteering.
Holy shit.
And so every time any organisation had a volunteer, I would deal with them. Like, so whether it was a community group doing, this is a whole thing, a patty throwing competition or a community barn dance, to work, I got to work with the Royal Ballet, Radio 1's Big Weekend, directors of really unusual immersive theatre, all types of things, and had this absolutely crazy, bonkers 2 years of work doing this thing that was in the city, being involved in something totally not to do with where I wanted to go job-wise. It just felt like a, why not have a go, do this thing.
Right, okay.
Again, like that thing of like the tapestry that makes you who you are, where you're getting pulled all the skills. I've never been a project manager on an events, you know, like that. Just I was like, I'll do it. I'd done events, and I put the spin on how I could do more events when I had my interview, but and it was crazy and amazing. But I thought it was going to be a definite finish at the end of 2017, and it wasn't. They asked us to continue, and I think on reflection, that's possibly the only mistake I've ever made in my career, was staying, because I think I'd got myself like, I can do this for 2 years, and then I'll leave. And I ended up staying for another 2 years. And then in my personal life, we were just going through hell. There was a lot of loss and grief and sadness. And I think that's where things started to feel really difficult and hard and challenging. And that's when it's on reflection. Then I did my reflection about this. I was like, that's where it feels really sticky. Had these 2 years, 2018, 19, that I'd say were like my sticky, sad, hard, heavy years, where I was in a job that I didn't expect to still be in. I had an absolutely gorgeous team. I worked with such lovely people, but I wasn't where I was meant to be. My purpose wasn't being filled. Started to feel less joy. Started to not feel like the person I should have been and I could be. And I think...
Do you think that hits hard? Like, because, I felt the same. Do you think, and your story parallels with mine, and sometimes I reflect back on my 20s and early years, and I was like, I would just do stuff. And I would just do. Do you think it's like we get to an age where we're just like, a little bit more cautious, or like, do you think maybe that was it, or...
Possibly, but then like now when I reflect back, even when you just saying that, I'm like, I was inside a lot. I was at a computer a real lot.
So you were really far away from that.
Yeah. I am a true millennial, and I am an absolute people pleaser, and to be in those situations, I was managing a lot of people, and I just wanted to make everyone happy and okay. And that draws on you, doesn't it? And it pulls you down. And if I wasn't getting what I needed to top my cup up, which now I know, I'm like, I need to be outside for like 5 hours a day every day. Like, the different, I can reflect back now to who I am now to then, like that. And so I guess in my tapestry, that might get a little bit black, that bit, a little bit dark, a little bit difficult. But I went on a leadership program. I was really, because I was floundering. I was like, what do I do now? And I got to, because I was in the charity sector, I got to do a free leadership program, and I had a massive light bulb moment on that leadership program when I realised like how I did everything was about thinking about how it impacted everybody else first. and putting people, my people pleasing was like almost toxic. It wasn't being helpful to me as an individual. And so even though I wasn't in my dream job, I got this opportunity that gave me some learning that has then moved me on. And I had another career change, because, why not?
Sure.
All this time, you have to remember, Michelle, I was like, one day I'll open a flower farm, one day I'll open a flower farm.
Yeah, it's there, isn't it? But I always feel like it is for most people, it doesn't come straight away, because life has all these lessons it needs to teach you,
Yeah.
which is why we get on these other paths.
And so then I changed and I ran a leadership program for leaders working in the charity sector to develop them, to match them up with coaches, to do training, support. And we launched that in the pandemic, so that was fun.
God, yeah.
But it was in that year where I'd started telling people, I think I'm going to open a flower farm. I've got this dream of opening a flower farm. And I remember someone going like this at me, looking in my garden yes.
Sure. One pot plant in the corner.
And then during the pandemic, when everyone else was having a really horrible time, I was working my socks off in my job, but my husband is a teacher and he was trapped at home. And so I just kept talking to him this idea is not going away. This itch is growing.
Yeah.
I think we should move house and start a completely different life. And a lot of people talk about the pandemic was the point that it allowed them to do that. But I think what had happened before for me, the pandemic gave me the space to have the conversation.
Yeah, it was time, we couldn't do anything but sit and listen to ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. And I listened, and then I talked a lot of my husband, come on, let's do this. And I think he took a punt on me and was up for changing his life entirely. And we set the ball rolling on that. And fast forward to where we are now, which is I have left my other job last year and I'm now a full-time flower farmer, and I am 100% doing what I'm meant to do. I have so much purpose. I have joy in my life. I work my socks off. I don't have a social life and I'm possibly semi-reclusive. But I am absolutely where I'm meant to be. And I feel like I've fulfilled a dream, but I know that wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't have got to this point if it hadn't been for all of that stuff before.
Yeah.
And I have brought in the learnings and the capabilities and the experiences from each of those jobs. So from the leadership program, I know that I should look after myself because I'm going to be better. From my job working with volunteers, I know that people need really clear instructions to be able to help you. From working on really large-scale events, I'm not nervous about delivering wedding flowers because I'd take 60 wedding guests over 50,000 people arriving for a immersive street art experience.
Yeah.
You know, and from my conservation, I know how to manage the land and how to be what wildlife I've got and what's important to be nurturing and improving. And then from waste management, I don't want my stuff going to landfill, so I'm really eco business, as near to zero waste as I can be, really regenerative. And then from all of those other things that happened before then, I just have an appreciation of life and how lucky I am to get to this point and to be doing my dream and to be living this life. And I guess I just want other people to know that it's all right to take a long time to get to that point, and that is quite realistic in life. You don't get everything handed on a plate. Sometimes you have to build that plate step by step, chip by chip, to get to that point, and that is worth that effort and work and point to get to there. And so I feel like I have dared played the long game and a long dare, and that dare has played off. And I guess there have been moments of big leaps and jumping headfirst into things, but also it's been all about it feels most definitely it's been all about getting to this point.
Yeah, it's a process, isn't it? And it's I know it's written on many a postcard about enjoying the journey. You have to, because the end result, I was so bad at this. I'm not now, but I was so bad at when am I going to get there, and when am I going to find this thing, or when am I going to earn more money when I get to the next position?
Yeah.
And I don't think, especially in the early 20s, that I enjoyed the journey.
Yeah.
But now that I feel like I'm getting closer, we were chatting before the show, getting closer to that thing where your gut just knows. You have to almost slow down when you want to speed up, because you've learned that nothing goes to plan. But it feels, we were saying this, weren't we? It feels weirdly right. Like even when shit hits the fan, but you've got the purpose is right. It doesn't really matter. I was chatting to my friend Zoe about this the other day, and we were like, if you've got that thing that you're supposed to be doing, it's almost like you will find a way, because there's no other thing that you can do.
Yeah, and don't you think purpose is a really underrated word when we talk about success?
Yeah.
Because people put success on how much money you've made, how much you've achieved, how many awards you've got.
Yeah.
But I have purpose every day, and so much research shows that elderly people who live the longest are those that have purpose. Often those people, it's because they garden or they grow veg, and
I heard this,
go outdoor. What's interesting is we're talking about this, I thought, and as I was coming over, I was like, I've got my dream of a flower farm, but what's happened is that I realised my USP is also about nature and getting people to be immersed in it, because I am totally biased, but I think my farm is a really beautiful, special place. Only 1 of the 4 acres is for flower farm, the rest is for wildlife. So we've got these gorgeous ancient oaks and woodland and meadow and orchard where there's just tons of wildlife to really immerse yourself in. And so that's a huge part of my business, is like giving people opportunities to be in that space and to enjoy nature.
So do you allow people to come to the farm then?
And workshops and events and things. I do nature journaling and farm tours. And
what's nature journaling?
Nature journaling is, but in the basic form, is just immersing yourself in nature with a journal, and then like allowing that to either write your journal or write poetry that's responding to nature or observing nature. We are, as humans, so intrinsically connected to nature. We are nature. That's how Indigenous people see human folk. We are at one with nature, because we are another species on this planet. And when you get that level of immersion, I'm going to butcher the name. Biophilia is the connection between humans and nature and biology and outdoors. We are fundamentally part of that system, and that is such a restorative, healing place to be. I've had people come to the farm the first time and they've literally gone, I just need to lie down on the ground here in this meadow. I know that's what my body's telling me to lie down, or can I just touch this tree? And that connection. So my next part of my business is to foster that and grow that element of it, because I can see how beneficial that is for people. And when we chatted before this, I'd said about micro joys and how on my leadership program, because I had been in the pits in 2018-19 and I'd had to pull myself out of it. I think it happens to a lot of generations, but I think millennials in particular, we were sold the white knight, shining armour, coming to rescue you and make everything all right, and there's going to be these big gorgeous moments and life's going to be all good.
Tick boxes,
and it's going to be great, and life isn't always great, and it does throw a lot at you. And how I rebuilt joy in my life was to look at micro joys rather than look for the big moments, like I'm going on holiday or I've got a new car or whatever it is. I just started to look at the really tiny things and stack them up every day. So like a robin following me around the garden, or my dog sneezing, or if you've got children, them laughing at a joke and you're in the other room. It's tiny, like micro moments that you can just like collect each day. And that became that. I used to talk about that in the leadership program, and so many people would feedback how important that is. So now on the farm, I always like lean into that. So, like the starlings. Yesterday I saw. I'm not a big birder, but I love all wildlife. A tree creeper, which is quite an unusual bird, and I was like, "There's a tree creeper!" And then I wrote that in my nature journal. I sat and did a little journal about I've seen a tree creeper, and I then did a poem about that, and I drew a drawing of it. And so like it holds this moment, and it makes it even more joyful and more like awesome that I saw this. And so I'm a big proponent of micro joys rather than hoping for a big moment, and the farm definitely serves me those aplenty every day.
And it's like I suppose there's a huge rewarding part of it is you get to invite people to enjoy that as well. Like you could be in a position where you do flower farming and it is a business, but that want to give back to others means it's had such an impact on you. You can see the value of that for other people.
It's such a healing space. I've healed my grief through being outdoors. I just think nature teaches you so much. It's our greatest lesson. And I don't like not to sound too like a philosopher, but I've got a magnolia tree in my garden and it's outside the window of my office. And when I was in my old job doing the leadership program, I watched how that came into bloom in February, and a magnolia tree looks absolutely stunning at their best for 3 weeks. They're like a star. And then they come into leaf and the flowers go and they're just a tree the rest of the year. We put magnolia trees up as this gorgeous, wonderful thing and how brilliant they are, and they just flower for 3 weeks of the year. But then when you reflect back on yourself, people would say to me in the leadership program, I'm not good enough and I can't do it all the time and I should be on my ball every week and my staff team don't know why I'm not there. And I was looking at this magnolia tree and this person on the Zoom call and I was like, yeah, but nature doesn't flower all the time and look really good all the time and isn't perfect every day of the year. They have fallow times, they have quiet moments, they rest in winter. And I think when you build that deeper connection with nature, you can learn from it and then bring that into your life. So that I want to give people opportunities who aren't as crazy as me and don't want to spend every day outside, hands in soil or cutting flowers, but give them moments to learn how to connect to nature. And sometimes a full immersion into a wild space is easier than doing it in your garden to begin with, where you've got someone to hold your hand and say, look at this, how to get involved.
Yeah, it's that first experience. It's like anything. For me, cold water swimming was something I wanted to do, but I needed to go with someone to have that first experience, to feel comfortable, to understand it a little bit. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, is there? I think it's a natural thing that you would do anyway. What are the biggest transformations you see from people that come to you?
So even on a farm tour, I do the same route every time, and then we go under this willow tree that's created a little loop over a bridge.
Oh my God, you've created an Enid Blyton kind of...
It's like that. And people step into the back field that they don't know that we've got, and every single time a group of people go quiet and their energy goes from being to chat to
shoulders drop.
And I purposely now go quiet at that bit and just welcome people into the space. And it's a meadow and a woodland that they step into, and people just go, oh. And that happens every time. But I've done some projects and we've had senior leaders from the charity sector come, and part of the day they were gifted 20 minutes just to go and be at one with nature. And I took their phones and their watches off them, and they were like, but how do we tell what 20 minutes is? I was like, just feel it. Just go and be. You have nothing to do. Just be at one with nature. No pressure, nobody asking you anything. And people came back slowly and gradually. And one person has said they'd literally hugged a tree and sobbed because they just felt this release, because the space just held them and just gave them a moment where there's no pressure. Yeah. And I always think that there's no judgment in nature. It just is there. They're doing their thing, you're doing your thing, and so and my transformation's massive. That space has healed me, and I feel deeply grateful for that and being there. And I know that there's more of my tapestry to be made, but it's going to be even slower because I don't want to go anywhere. I don't need to do this breakneck speed of my
because you're kind of in that.
Yeah, now I can just enjoy it and bring those strings all together and keep growing and learning and developing, but at a pace that I know I'm going to be doing this for a long time. So I get to enjoy that now.
I think that's incredible. I think such a beautiful story. It amazes me how many people come on the show and they're like, yes, and then they're like, I don't know if I've got a story. So you're not on your own there. It's almost 90% of people. Yeah. And then what unfolds on this sofa is incredible and changes people's lives. So I'm so thankful that you had that reflection and that you've come to share your story, because I think it's amazing. The one thing, we're doing good for time. The one thing that I do want to finish on is the flowers that you grow and provide for weddings. Where's the joy in that? Is it? I know it's part of people's biggest day, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I'm seeing pressure, but also like artistic involvement and creativity. Where does the joy, like, is there so much joy in that, or is you still got your business hat on as such, and
So much. Like, who am I to get paid to take someone flowers on their wedding day? Like, they thank me, and I'm like, no, thank you.
Thank you.
Like, no, thank you. And like, we have these like moments. And I feel like I need to find a phrase to say when I hand over a bouquet to a wedding couple, because I'm like, this is just the best thing ever. Like, how good is that? And the creative freedom. And I hope I attract customers that love nature and the outdoors and creative flowers. And yeah, it's such a joyful thing. There are pressures. Like, I have we've been midway through dinner and suddenly a snowstorm has come in and like some great big gusts of wind, and I've like shot, and my husband's like, where are you going? I'm like, I need to stake those white dahlias that are in next week's wedding. And like, he's like, okay. He's like, living with a flower farmer. Like, in treacherous conditions. Like, going out. I grow something called ranunculus, which is a beautiful, ruffly, gorgeous flower that will be in spring weddings. And like, I'll be in and out in winter, like covering them up, taking them off, covering them up, taking them off, and there'll be like snot and wind going across my face, and there'll be rain. I'll be like, why am I doing this? And I fall over a lot, and I'll be like splat in the mud, and then I think, oh, this like every mountain I've got to climb up to get these flowers, and then you cutting them in summer, and you're like, oh, this is just like the dream job. It's so easy, it's great, but the reality is not that. But yeah, it's so joyful, and even doing farewell flowers for people, you know, who want to give a last tribute that doesn't cost the earth, because flowers are so sustainable and eco. Like, there's joy in that. Like, I get to know the person who's died, and we talk about them, and then I design something that's them in mind. So a friend of a friend had died, and I did something. She was a really bubbly young woman, so we did loads of pink and white and flowers that like popped all over the place, and you know, were joyful because it was a celebration of her and who she was. So yeah, there's joy in so much in the flowers. Like, it's, yeah, how lucky am I that that's like my job and my life. Like, now I'm like, I'm living the dream.
Yeah, there is luck, but a huge amount of it is, like you said, is this story of you just on this journey and taking the risks and taking the chances and listening to your gut.
Oh yeah, I love my gut. It tells me everything. That's why when you message, I was like, yep, I'm doing it, because I follow it first, and then the fear comes in, and the thoughts that you're not the right person to do it. But I think that then that's just something, that's the great stuff to work through and sit with that discomfort and then go, yeah, I can do this. And follow your gut.
I'm so glad you did.
Thing.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being an amazing guest.
Thank you
I really
for having
appreciate
me.
it. You're welcome.